Hello everyone, my name is Cheyenne Starr, and this is my final research project, which is titled Perceived Stress in Emerging Adults, Gender Differences, and the Role of Self-Efficacy and Independence. And here's the table of contents. We're basically just following the manuscript. So, starting with the problem statement, emerging adulthood, which is ages 18 to 29, is a really intense time. So people are dealing with things like identity, independence, academics if they're in college, and social changes. And this happens all at once. So it makes sense that stress is a major concern during the emerging adulthood period of time. But stress doesn't affect everyone equally. So research shows that women report higher stress than men, and this could be due to many different factors like emotional labor, gender expectations, or social pressure. But at the same time, psychological resources like self-efficacy and independence might make a difference in how stress is managed. So the study is really about exploring those different dynamics and how they connect to perceived stress and emerging adulthood. So here's literature review, and it kind of shows you the different variables. So perceived stress is just how overwhelmed someone might feel by the demands of life. Self-efficacy is a person's belief in their ability to solve the problem and manage that stress. Independence is autonomy and self-direction, and gender is really the key here because it is said that women tend to report more stress than men, even when they have higher levels of social support, which is why support is shown here. So stress clearly isn't just about external resources, it's more complex than that. And then here's a literature review. I have more sources in this, but these sources are tied to my variables. And there's a short summary of it too. Right. Starting with the hypotheses, the first one is women will report higher levels of stress than men, and the second one is about whether self-efficacy and independence kind of act as a protective barrier with stress. So here's a procedure in the participant section. So I used data from the EAMMI2 project. They collected samples from 32 different colleges and universities between 2016 and 17. Um, Participants completed online surveys that asked about stress, self-efficacy, independence, and different demographic info. And after cleaning the data set, I had 3,134 participants in total. Most were under 30, with a mean age of 21. About 73% were women and 25% were men, and a small number identified as non-binary. Um, okay. So, stress, self-efficacy, and independence were all measured using the short Likert scale items. To analyze the stress, I ran a Welch's t-test to compare stress levels between men and women, and I had to drop non-binary because there wasn't many samples, and also because the t-test required only 2 levels and not 3. I also ran a multiple regression test to see if self-efficacy and independence could predict stress. And I also checked all the regression assumptions, and there was only a slight issue with linearity, but I kept going even that was there. So in the first hypothesis, that looked at whether women reported more stress than men, the Welch's t-test found a statistical significance uh, indifference, and it was in the direction I expected, which is positive, that women reported higher stress. This tells us that gendered experiences and pressures might play a role in shaping how stress is felt during emerging adulthood. And even when support is present for women, they might still carry a different emotional burdens, which is consistent with the literature review and past research. And this box plot kind of shows you the final statistics showing that women do have more stress than men. And as you can see, the F and M in the block plot, the middle darker line is the mean. So um, you can see it's higher than this. And the second hypothesis, it asked if higher self-efficacy and independence could predict lower stress. So the regression model was statistically significant overall and explained about 17% of the variance in stress. and self-efficacy was a strong predictor and it was statistically significant. So people who believed in their ability to handle life did report less stress, but independence was not statistically significant. So this could suggest that just valuing independence isn't enough on its own, and maybe you need to actually experience autonomy or have the resources to act on it. So in the end, hypothesis one was supported, but hypothesis two was not. So here is the last slide. To wrap it up, gender and self-efficacy are both important for understanding stress in emerging adulthood. Women tend to report more stress, and people with higher self-efficacy tend to report less. Independence didn't seem to really matter as much in this study because it wasn't significant. Some limitations of the study were the uneven gender distribution. As you said, there was about 70% women and 25% men. Um, and the fact that this was a cross-sectional study and only captured one moment in time is a limitation as well. Future research could use better measures of independence, and they could include more non-binary participants. They could also do interviews that explore different stress experiences more adequately and detailed. Overall, this research helps to understand that individual traits and identity can affect stress, and it can guide a better mental health support for emerging adults.